Thanks, Bubba. I appreciate it. This is pretty typical for a live stream that I do. The house is quiet, so with that said, that means that I usually do a live stream and just kind of hang out for a minute. I got some stuff I'm going to do in the kitchen, so I have a chat that I can read, so I'm probably going to yell from across the room. What's up, Diver Down? Limited time in the day, so try to squeeze in a little live stream. Everything's doing pretty good. You can probably see that white rock right there. It's kind of interesting because if you can see the rock behind it, it's the same rock, except the white rock I just dropped in the tank this weekend. I had it laying around and I was too lazy to put it back in my bucket of rock, so I dropped it in the tank. But it is absolutely crazy that at one point my rock was that white and now it's this color. My manifold's doing pretty good. Let me see if I can. Everything's doing pretty good. Nothing fancy. I simplified everything. So it's hard to see. That's not too bad. But the output of this Vario 6 is 1 1/4, so it's reduced to 1 inch. It comes up to a 1 inch T, which goes into a 3/4 inch T. The 3/4 inch T gets reduced to a 1/2 inch, which goes up and over and down into the reactor that has pond matrix in it. And then it's reduced from 3/4 inch to 1/2 inch with the MPT push connect fitting, and that has the valve there that controls the flow. And then I'm using a 2 inch T. You can see it's got a small drip right there, and it don't bother me. It's because it's in the sump anyway. But it's the Murloc line there. It's got a 90, and it goes into a 2 inch T with a 1/2 inch fitting. You can see the salt creep there. And this thing sprays everywhere. But it's growing algae. It's doing a pretty good job. And the reason why it's spraying like that, what's up CDM? The reason why it's spraying like that is because I need to take the PVC off of the algae scrubber and widen it a little bit, and that'll reduce the amount of spray that's happening. So this toadstool right here is very strange. It hardly ever opens up, so today's I guess a lucky day. No, actually, I don't have that frag plug or those frag plugs glued down or anything. One of these big snails right here knocked that bird's nest off and snapped a piece of it off. And those big snails are pretty much a pain in the butt. There's a scrubber on the base. It is. The algae scrubber is You won't be able to see, I doubt you'll be able to see it. I've done a whole video on it. I just haven't released it yet. No. So the algae scrubber is, of course, it's a pole mount algae scrubber. So it is setting on a piece of a 1/2 inch acrylic, and there's a piece of 2-inch tabletop PVC glued, super glued to that 2-inch or 1/2 inch acrylic, and then that tabletop allows me to slide in a piece of 2-inch PVC, which has the 2-inch to 1/2 inch T, and then another piece of 2-inch PVC, which the scrubber sets on top of. So I did it that way so that I could set it back far in my sump. Working on the screen. You know, adding that screen top on this tank was one of the best things that I've done. And this is actually the first tank I've ever run a screen top on. But, you know, I don't have anything on my glass now, so I did quite a bit of work to the tank over the weekend. Scrubbed a bunch of coralline algae off the back. Yeah, it's set up the same way that Santa Monica has it set up. Appreciate it, Michael. The auto top off, I'm sure I heard from someone that you were going to turn your auto top off chamber into a turf scrubber. I'm using Santa Monica Rain 2 algae turf scrubber. Appreciate it, Paul. No worries. So as far as the stock auto top off from this tank, it'll never go back in this tank. It's can't verify it, but I think I threw that auto top off away. I'm pretty sure I did. Am I happy with this size tank? I am. You know, I can get away with 5-gallon water changes. It's easy to take care of, it's easy to clean. So, you know, do I wish I had another foot of length in the tank? Maybe some days. But I'm satisfied with it. And for what it's worth, this is the longest I've had a tank running anyway. I've switched tanks quite a bit, so this is the longest one that I've had running. And this one's going to be here for a while, so unfortunately there won't be another tank build for me for many years. Yes, I like this much better than the cube that I had. You know, hindsight's 2020. At the time I set up the cube, I had a 75-gallon freshwater, and I probably should have just set up that 75-gallon as a saltwater tank and just been done with it. What's going on, Super Yellow Tang? But it's doing pretty good. The scrubber's growing algae. The fish in the tank do a very good job of keeping algae in check in the tank. So you're getting a Red Sea Reefer 250. You'll love it. I like the tank. I like the stand. I like everything about it. It's a good tank. I know of a lot of, it seems like here recently, since the Red Sea Reefer series has pretty much blown up, a lot of people, this is their first sump setup, the Red Sea Reefer is. So if you've never used a sump before, my best suggestion, I just answered this question in one of my videos this week. My best suggestion as far as the tank and the sump is set up is, you know, fill the tank up until the water starts going down the overflow, and then fill the sump up about halfway. The valve on the Red Sea Reefer, as far as the drain gate valve, is very, very fine. So be patient with it, and it's very easy to adjust. You just have to understand that these little hairpin turns, like hair turns, right? Very, very small turns do a lot as far as keeping the system quiet. I hear no noise. The Rain 2 algae scrubber is pretty loud whenever you open up the cabinet, but the cabinet's closed right now, and I can barely hear it. What's up, DC Reefer? This live stream needs an AP700. Hopefully coming soon. Hopefully soon. Skimmer and return pump. Yeah, it doesn't come with a skimmer and return pump, so you'll have to pick those out yourself. I have the Reef Octopus Vario 6, which is way bigger than what I needed. You could get away with the Varios 4 or 2, depending on if you want to run a manifold or not. This is a Red Sea Reefer 250. As far as skimmers are concerned, you could get away with any skimmer. I bought the Nyos 120. It's 100% quiet. If I had to do it again, I would probably buy a cheaper skimmer. Why? Just because, I don't know. Are all skimmers the same? They're not, but I probably would have experimented with a little bit of a cheaper skimmer, but that's just my opinion. You know what? I'm sure, I was actually surprised. I haven't heard a lot of people say anything about the blue tang that's in here. But of course, it's not going to be in here long term. It's grown quite a bit. It was about the size of a $50 when I got it, and it's probably double that now. The yellow tang has grown quite a bit as well, and that yellow tang is a beast. You know, any hair algae I had in the tank whenever the yellow tang was introduced to this tank was quickly gone. I'm just a Kessil fan in general. I don't think you get aesthetically the shimmer that you get with any other light. That's just my opinion. As far as growth and whatnot, who knows? Tropical storm. Yeah, a lot of people that I know are down in Panama City and Destin and right around that area, so their vacation's probably not very fun right now. Yeah, I don't know what skimmer. You know, to be honest with you, whenever I started looking at skimmers, it was between the Nyos and the Deltec, like the 1351. The Deltec skimmer with the AC pump. I don't care about having a DC pump with my skimmer. So, the sump update, I went through the sump real quick. Nothing changed really. The house is quiet, so figured I'd do a live stream. How long has this tank been set up? If that's the question, I added water in this tank, I think it was late October, somewhere around that time frame. And I seeded the tank with quite a bit of pond matrix, then some biospira, and then I dosed it with ammonia. Kind of let it ride out for a few weeks, then transferred the little bit of coral and whatnot that I had over to this tank. Yeah, an Achilles tank. Now, the blue tank will go at some point, and then I may look at getting one of the other smaller species of tangs, but that's it. I'll look at some wrasses, and that'll probably pretty much be it. I really wish I'd have got a flame angel instead of the coral beauty, just because you can't see the coral beauty, since the coral beauty is real dark, but it is what it is. How much did you spend on this tank? I'm not going through that. I'm sorry, man. I'm not gonna go through it. In this hobby, you can spend as much as you want or as less as you want. In all honesty, I mean, as long as, in my opinion, you could buy a $100 light. The most important thing is literally just keeping up with water changes and an auto top off. So take a box, take a glass box, put some cheap power heads in it, or hang on the back filter, cheap light power heads. As long as you're keeping your salinity and all your other parameters in check, then you're good. If you can burn a $100 bill. You know, you kind of got to be smart and well, let me rephrase that. It comes from experience. So you're going to make mistakes. What's up, 5280? You're going to make mistakes, and you're going to buy things and either second guess it or regret it, one of the two. But, and a lot of people, I've preached this all along, if you've heard me on anybody else's live streams or even in some of my previous videos, but I get on forums all the time and eBay, and I'm all over the place. A lot of this stuff was used, and I got good deals on it. I mean, the Nyos 120 skimmer, the guy had it for sale on eBay. I messaged him and asked and made him an offer of what the going rate of a used Nyos 120 is going for. So I was fair with my offer. I didn't automatically say, hey, I'll give you $100 for that skimmer. I offered him a fair rate for the skimmer, the going rate, and he pulled it off eBay, and I bought it from him. So if you're willing to shop around and get on the forums, you can find stuff, whatever you're looking for. You know, there were some exceptions. You know, I bought the tank brand new. I bought the gyre pumps brand new. But the return pump was brand new. But almost everything else was used. I bought the rain tube off of a guy on Reef to Reef. He had it running in his tank. Didn't like it. Had it for about $100 off of retail. Got it. It sat on a shelf for 4 or 5 months before I put it in the tank. But there's not that many of them. So they don't go for sale very often. So you find a good deal, get it, sit on it. It is what it is. You just have to research. You know, you spend 98% of your time doing research, and then 2% of your time, well, not 90% of your time doing research, 8% of your time doing maintenance, and then 2% of your time trying to enjoy it. I believe it. Buy a 40 breeder and have that much. I look at it like this, you know, and I made these purchases over a period of time. I didn't just go out and drop a bunch of money and all this stuff show up at my door. So it's all happened over a period of time. Of course, you know, I'm married and I have kids, so this keeps me home. And before this, before the reef tank, I had cars, and some of the cars that I had were a lot more expensive than maintaining this. Guy looking for some A-series mounts, I got some for sale. Thank you, I appreciate it. I'll check it here in a minute. So, cars are expensive. Then you got to pay for maintenance and gas and insurance and all that other stuff. And to enjoy your car, you got to drive it. When you drive it, you're not at home. When you're not at home, you're not spending time with your family. So, I'd much rather be here messing with the fish tank than I would out playing around with a car right now. So, everything happens for a reason. It's a lot of fun. I learned a lot. Yeah, it's real hard to do both. I agree with that. 5280. So the last car that I had, I put it on eBay and put a reserve on it. Just let it ride out. Cajun Reefer. I've never used PVC cement or primer before I plumbed a reef tank, and I'm not the best at it by any means, but for myself personally, if you overthink it, it's going to get a lot more complicated than it really needs to be. That's probably the best advice I can give you. So I went from spending way too much time on my current manifold setup to simplifying it 100%. And I mentioned this in one of my last videos, that as far as the aesthetic appearance of that manifold, I really don't care. That cabinet door stays closed, nobody can get in it but me. I show it to you guys, so as long as it's functional, that's all that matters. Future of the tank. Of course, some more fish at some point. Would love to cover the rock and coral. That'll be over the next year and whatnot. As far as any hardware or equipment changes, right now, the only thing that I'm planning on changing is the lights. So the Kessil 160s will come off of the tank, and then hopefully the AP700 will replace them. And I like the 160s, I just want the slim profile. So I took the Kessils off of the A-series mounts and built an 80/20 mount for them. And I like it, so I would plan to put the AP700 on it. But as far as anything else, I just plan to spend some money on coral. A couple more fish. I did put some more sand in the tank, so. Finally, this is the third tank that I've set up, and finally I'm at a point to where I don't need any other equipment unless something were to fail. I don't need any more equipment, so the rest of my time will be spent figuring out what corals that I want. And this question was brought up earlier: do I wish that I had gone with a bigger tank? And I mean, I'm fine with this tank. I'm satisfied with it. The really the worst thing about these small tanks is if you don't research and plan out, especially fish and coral, you could end up with stuff that you don't want. So that's why there's not a lot of coral in here, because if I don't for sure want it, I'm not going to put it in here. How much sand? There's probably an inch of sand around the whole tank, and the reason why there was about an inch and a half in the back of the tank, and then a 1/2 inch up front, and I put probably another 1/2 inch of sand up front, only because I want more wrasses. Since I picked up that one wrasse, I want another one. Yeah, it's a 80/20 extruded aluminum stand that I built the light mount out of. So there's about a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch between the stand and the tank. And it goes down and it's mounted to a board. And it's just a piece of 80/20 that's teed off and the lights are hung from it. Weight wise, I'm not sure how much weight as far as sand is in here. I know I bought a lot more sand than I needed. What is my dream coral? You know, I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that, only because I don't know a lot about coral. That's one of the things that I got to research. $58 gallons is a good water volume. This is 65 total water volume. That may have changed a little bit, but whenever I filled it up, I measured it completely because I filled it up with buckets, and it was right at about 65 gallons. So but I'm happy with this tank. I'll get small coral frags and I'll let them grow out. Gives me another reason to keep this tank for 3 to 5 years ish. And then we'll kind of see what happens from there. Everybody always popping in here with the eyeballs. What's up, Ed? I'm satisfied with the rock. It is getting coralline algae on it, and I don't know really how I feel about that overall, but I mentioned this. Of course, there's coralline algae there on the overflow, and then this white rock is what the rock looked like initially. It was that white, and you can see the rock in the background, how much it's changed, how dark it is. So I did have, not long ago, some bubble algae on this guy, which that's a piece of rock rubble, so I just pulled it out of the tank and scrubbed it off there. That should be my thumbnail right there, shouldn't it? The last of the zoas. That's it. Once they're gone, there will be no zoas in this tank. Just not a fan of them. And these guys constantly get knocked off the rocks. There's the bubble tip anemone, which in and out, in and out, in and out. It's moved around quite a bit. It stayed there for a little while now, so. And then these guys, I don't really know how I feel about them. The green one's not too bad, but this one really doesn't have a lot of color, so it didn't really do a lot for me, to be honest with you. I need to stay away from green. I've had, if I find my spot there. Had a lot of green in the tank. Everybody always likes to see the sump area. Need to adjust that a little bit more, but it does good. I cleaned that on Saturday, so got the pond matrix and the reactor, and of course the algae scrubber. So probably need to take that filter sock out here maybe tonight or tomorrow night and replace it. I run a felt filter sock back here and a mesh filter sock up here just because this one filters out the majority of the nasty stuff. I know I mentioned at one point that I scratched my stand taking that iPad off, and I took some white out to it. Probably if I'd never mentioned that, nobody would ever see it. So, hey, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. It's been a lot of fun. The rocks are maturing quite nicely. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Diamond goby from hell. I don't have any in here. Pretty much what you saw is what I have, and the rest is in there somewhere. So there he is. I don't know. He'll probably swim off. I'm just gonna come up here. The glare wasn't. That guy is a flatworm eating buffet. Yeah, I'm fixing to get off here too. I'm gonna get the house straightened up while it's empty. So going on 35 minutes now. You know how these live streams always work out. You say I'm going to do this for 10-15 minutes and it ends up being 40-45 minutes. So with that said, I appreciate everyone stopping by. Hopefully I'll get to do another live stream before too long. If not, got a lot of videos that need to be published, so the glare of the sun is pretty awful. All right, everybody. I appreciate you stopping by. We'll see you on the next one.